Hello again, Tom Simmons here, and this time I'm going to use this video opportunity to outline where this lesson is going, what I need you to do for this week, and to talk to you a little bit about the importance of understanding your credit report and your credit score. At this point in our history, information about us is changing hands at lightning speed. There is almost nothing that you do that some firm, some company, some financial institution does not know about, and they know about it very quickly. At least one report has suggested that up to 40% of employers are now doing credit check backgrounds on potential new employees before hiring them. So maybe you've gotten yourself into some trouble, you've got a bad credit record, so you're looking for a job. Even if the job does not entail handling money, many employers will see that as some indication as to how trustworthy you are and whether they can trust you. And so there's an enormous number of them running credit checks on potential new hires. Obviously, if you're looking for a loan, you want to finance, you want a car, you want an education loan, all of these things are going to be affected by your credit history. Even at this point, even the ability to open up a new checking account at a new bank is going to be affected by your credit history. Banks are telling people, no, we cannot open up an account with you. And of course, even something as simple as housing, and I'm not talking about buying a house, I'm talking about renting a house. Last year I was looking at renting a house, and I went to 4 different landlords in Northampton as I was looking for different apartments that I could rent, and all 4 of them told me that they would run credit checks, and they wanted me to sign a release and able to take a look at my credit history. So at this point, being able to get housing, to get something as simple as a bank account, to get a job, all of these things are being impacted by our past credit history. And that's why it's important to understand how this information is conveyed and what you can do to make yourself look better and to improve your credit situation. So the first thing to understand is that there are really 3 different type of reports, and all 3, they overlap in terms of the information they convey, but they are different. All right? One of them is your credit report, one of them is your credit score, and one of them is your checks systems report. Now that last one is not one that many people have heard of. It is exploding in recent years. And we're gonna look in this video at all 3 of these. And in the lesson that I've assigned for you for this particular week, you will be investigating further information about them, and you will be requesting information about yourself personally. And that actually is the second project. The first project being doing the expense recording. Your second project is to gather the information that other people have about you and making sure that it's correct. So first, let's look at the credit report. There are 3 major companies in this country that collect data on you and then sell it to other people who may want to look at it. Those 3 countries are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are the 3 big credit reporting agencies in the United States. They keep records as to where you work currently and in the past, where you live currently and where you've lived in the past, and other names that you may have used. It's very common for your credit report to include maiden names, names you change back to after you may have been divorced or separated or widowed, changing your middle name, using a middle initial, not using a middle initial. All of these things are usually present on your credit report. The heart of the credit reports that these 3 companies put together and then sell to potential lenders, and that's where they make their money, and that's who they're working for, not you, is the payment history. Your payment history on whatever payments you have to make, usually on a monthly basis. So that means your credit cards, especially your credit cards. They keep a history of every payment you've made and whether you made it on time or whether you were late. Your auto loan, your personal loan, a mortgage you may have, educational loans. And they don't just tell a prospective lender that you're currently up to date or you're not up to date. They give them past history. So for instance, maybe a year ago you were late a month or two in a row for whatever reason on a credit card bill. When the credit report reports that, they will say 10 on-time payments and 2 late payments. They don't necessarily say, oh, but hey, it happened a long time ago, so don't worry about it. And bad information on a credit report can last as long as 7 years, and in the case of bankruptcy, 10 years. So yes, little missteps, little ones, can have repercussions that last a long time. You should also know that if you are 1 or 2 days late on a credit card payment, that doesn't show up on the credit report as, oh, just 1 or 2 days late. It shows up as 30 days late. Anything that is late from 1 hour to 30 days goes in a category called 30 days late. If you're 31 days late, it gets dropped into a category called 60 days late. Everything is done through computers, and it's very mechanical, and this is just how this stuff is filed. And so you may have reasons why. You may say, well, I really paid it on time, but it didn't get to them, or they didn't post it on time. Doesn't matter. You're late an hour, it's 30 days late, and it will stay on that record for a long, long time. And if this is beginning to scare you because, well, yeah, I've been late, but only by a day or two, it should. Because these companies are collecting this information and selling it to anyone who wants to look at it. Now, in addition to payments, your credit report will include judgments against you. You know those bills that you thought they forgot about you or you couldn't find? Maybe you got out of a cell phone contract early because you moved or married and changed your name. Maybe you had a fight with a satellite TV company and that you said, forget it, just take this stuff back because it's not working. And they said, well, we think it is, and you owe us $400 early contract termination. Those companies may not even bother to track you down. They don't worry about it. They don't spend time on the phone. They just get a judgment against you. And then it goes on your credit record. And until you clean that thing up somehow, somewhere, it stays with you. If you are in default in a school loan, it's on your record. Obviously, if you've been through a bankruptcy, that's something that's going to be on your record, and it's going to be there a long time. Mere credit inquiries. Every time you ask online for a credit card and say, hey, what the heck, what do I got to lose? Every time one of those companies checks your credit, it dings your credit report. They keep a record of how many hard inquiries are made on your finances. And it's seen as negative because the assumption is that you're running around trying to scrounge up credit because you don't have enough money to pay your bills. This is a very harsh, unforgiving system. All of these things are in your credit report. Now, because there's 3 different companies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, they may have slightly different information. 2 of them might get something right. 1 of them might get something wrong. They may have information that doesn't belong to you at all. My father's name was Bob Simmons. There are about 2 pages of people named Bob Simmons in the New York City phone book. And very often he had items on his credit record that did not belong to him, but to someone else. Fortunately, you have a right to see what all 3 of these companies are saying about you and what they are telling other people about you. If you've been denied credit by any one of those companies, you have an immediate right to see the credit report for free. And regardless of whether you've been turned down for credit or not, you have a right once a year to get your credit report to see what's on it. Now, all three of those major companies have decided to work through a single website so that you can go online and order a copy of your credit report from all three agencies at one website. And that is one thing I'm going to be asking you to do, so that you can see exactly what it is that these companies are saying about you. So that is your credit report. The second item we need to talk about is your credit score, which is different than your credit report, and usually your credit report does not include that number. So if you're ordering a copy of your credit report and you're all excited to see what's my score, chances are it's not on there. Your credit score is more technically referred to as your FICO score, which stands for the Fair Isle Company in Minnesota that invented this mathematical computer-based logarithm to determine how creditworthy you are. Now, as for exactly how that mathematical formula works, and I've had students come to me and say, hey, I'll bring in my report. Can you tell me what my credit score is? My answer is no, I can't, because that formula is secret. That's right. It is a proprietary formula, meaning it is patented, just like an invention, that the Fair Isle Company has a patent on the formula. They do not divulge the formula, and no one knows precisely what that formula is. What we do know is that they take this number and they sell it to the three big credit firms, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And then those three firms take those scores and tweak them a little bit. So, if you get your credit score from one of those three credit companies, they will probably be slightly different one from another. But only slightly. And that's because they got the main FICO score from Fair Isle and then tweaked a little bit based on some of their own parameters. They're never far apart from one another. One of the most frustrating things about your credit score is that it is only affected by negative information. They don't care that you just got a job. It doesn't matter that you just got a raise. It doesn't matter that you have an enormous bank account. It doesn't matter that you paid your house off and now you have an asset worth a couple $100,000. They don't care. Those items do not go into your credit score. So all of the things, when you're thinking, well, here are the bad things about my financial history, but here are some of the good things. Your credit score does not take into account any of the good things. Credit scores generally run in they could be as low as in the 300s, which are extremely poor. But even in the 400s and 500s, that's considered poor. Once you break into the 600s, that's considered fair to poor. There was a time when if you were in the upper 500s or lower 600s, you could get a mortgage. Those days are over. Today, don't even think about applying for a mortgage until your credit score is up in the 700s. And there's no one who's got a credit score as high as 800. So as you can see, you've got to have an incredible credit score to get credit in the current climate. Now, in terms of these negatives, many things that people think would be good are actually bad. For instance, let's say you have no credit at all. You don't use credit cards and you don't borrow. And now you go to the bank and you can say, hey, I'd like a loan for school or for something else. And, I don't believe in credit cards. I don't use them. I don't abuse them. That's a bad mark. If you don't handle credit, that tells the Fair Isle Company that you are not skilled and experienced in using credit, and you're a bad risk. That is actually a negative sign. The other side is also just as bad. if you have a lot of credit, everyone and their brother has given you tons of credit, that is often seen as a bad sign as well. You've got too much credit available to you already. So you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm somewhere in the middle. I've got 2 or 3 credit cards, or I have an education loan and 1 credit card and an auto loan. Here's a few things. And yeah, I use them, but I make my payments on time every single month. What's wrong with that? Well, if you're using more than 30% of your available credit, that's actually seen as a negative. Example, you have a credit card and you have a $1,000 limit on that credit card. You use it for car repairs and a couple expenses here and there, and you've only got $650 on that credit card. And you pay it on time every month, and you pay more than the minimum balance every month, and you've never missed. But as you pay it down, you also put a few things on, so your balance is also always around $600 and $650. Believe it or not, you're going to get bad marks for that, because you consistently use more than 30% of your available credit for charging. So, one of the only ways to really get a good, solid mark on credit is to get credit, which is a problem. Only use it a little bit. Use less than half, less than a third if you possibly can. And then pay that thing off entirely. In other words, you're using your credit card not to buy things you can't afford, but in order to make a purchase now and then pay it when the bill comes due. And if you start running that credit card up, then before the bill comes to your house, you start an online account and you make a payment before the bill even gets to you. And you keep that limit down, because the ratio of credit available to you versus credit actually used is a critical part of that credit score. So, one of the things I'm going to be asking you to do as part of this lesson is I'm going to have you go to a site called Credit Karma. Credit Karma cannot absolutely calculate your credit score. As I said earlier, that's proprietary, it's secret. But they have done a really good job at coming very close. Credit Karma is not one of these credit repair agencies that charge you a fee and then end up negotiating down your balances, which is a bad mark on your credit report and your credit score. Okay? What they do is they provide you with information. And the way they get their pay is because there are advertisements on their site. Hey, you got a good chance of getting this credit card. You got a fair chance of getting this credit card. So I'm going to ask you to go to the site, put in your information. They will do a darn good job. They'll be within a few points of calculating your credit score and in revealing to you the items that are going into and affecting your credit score, of which they are aware. And they get their information from the big 3 agencies. So you can see right there, about what is your score. And is there something very wrong here or not? I just plead with you, don't go clicking around on all the ads and say, oh, there's 16 different credit cards I'm capable of applying for, so let's just do them. Because chances are that will get you into more trouble than not. But the site itself is a good site. The third report is the ChexSystems report. And this is a fairly new one for many people. ChexSystems is a new credit agency, and all it does is it enables banks to talk to each other. The reports are highly secretive. When you go in to open up a new checking account, that bank will probably not even tell you that they are running a report through ChexSystems, which is an independent company, on you. And if something comes up negative, most banks, almost every bank, will tell you they're not allowed to tell you what the negative information is. They're not allowed to print out the report. They're not allowed to give you information, except that ChexSystems says, we can't open an account with you. Sorry. talk to ChexSystem. ChexSystem collects data that banks report to them, and they kind of pass the buck to each other, because ChexSystems will say, and they say this right in their website, we do not approve or deny anyone's credit. All we do is provide information. And then when the bank denies you credit, they say, it's not our fault. We simply can't approve it if ChexSystem says there was a problem. They said no, and we have to go with what they say. So no one's willing to take responsibility for what's going on here in this new system. But what's happening is almost every bank and some credit unions participate in this system and report your financial transactions to ChexSystems. ChexSystems collects it, and when you go to open up a new account, they report the information they have. People have been denied the right to open up a checking account because the name on an old checking account and their driver's license and their new driver's license or their social security number doesn't match. And for anyone who's been through a marriage, a divorce, an annulment, a separation, very often this comes into play. And if you've moved states in the process, it can be chaos ensuing within that reporting system because nothing matches. They will tell the bank no, and you will not know why. They also report, and this is the reason that they were formed in the first place, on whether or not you owe a bank money. Now, very often what happens is, in a situation like this, is that you will move from one place to another, or you will choose to stop using a bank because you're tired of their fees or for some other reason, and so you close your account out. And then you forget that you had an automatic withdrawal, or you gave someone a check that you forgot to enter in your checkbook, or you used your debit card to get gas at a gas station, and it didn't go through the system at the time you closed your account, but hit the system afterwards. And gas stations very often may take 3 or 4 days or even longer to hit the system. That bank, if they've paid on that, now says, hey, this ex-customer owes us. They may send you a letter. They may or may not know where you are, but what they will do is they will tell ChexSystems. And if you owe a bank money anywhere, going back years, you will not be permitted to open up a new bank account. Now here's the really unfair part. If you owed a bank money and you realized, oh my gosh, I forgot I stopped at the gas station. I forgot I gave that check to whoever I gave it to, or they cashed it a month later, or whatever happened. And you go to the bank and you make good on it and you pay it. ChexSystem will still ding that as a negative, and they may still say no to your efforts to open up a new checking account. There are some banks and credit unions that will allow you, if you've paid off an old debt to a bank, to open up a checking account, but they won't permit you to have a debit card for 6 months. And I've actually run into an incident like that right here in Greenfield within the last few months with someone. So, like your credit report, you have a right to know what is on that report, but it's even harder to get a hold of. Because when you call the number, all you get is an automated answering machine and no live person. They want you to put information on their answering machine or go to their website. They don't want to talk to you. They're supposed to give you the information you ask for within 5 business days. I am now on day 10 of my request, and I am still waiting for the information, so I've put a second request in. One of the things I'll be asking you to do during the course of this lesson is to put in a request yourself. It's free. You have a right to it. So you've got these 3 different systems, the credit report, the credit score, and the ChexSystems report. They are all trading information on you. It is often unfair because it doesn't include the positive information, and it is often wrong. And more unfortunately, it is affecting people's ability to do banking, to get a job, to get a home, to get a loan, to get an education. Much of what you do is now bound up in the system. It is absolutely incumbent on you to know who's saying what about you, and when something is wrong, demand that it be fixed. That's what this particular week is going to be about, and that's what this project is going to be about. So hopefully I have fired you up a little bit, and you are ready to go find out what is being floated in your name, and clean it up and take care of it, and don't let them be the ones in the driver's seat. You be in the driver's seat. Clean up your credit, get it straight, make sure that they can only report high numbers and good reports on you. Thank you.